It's all gone dark, like the show.
It's mood lighting is to help set the mood.
Well, I play a character called Jack Whelan. He is an ex-LAPD cop who has had to leave the force and leave LA for some reason, which we find out later. He's married to Amy, and they move out to the Pacific Northwest to start again after some incident, which we will find out later has happened. So they've been touched by a little bit of tragedy in a very human way, that many couples are touched by. And they are beginning life again. And he's a sort of successful author, but he's had one hit book, which was sort of a fluke because he basically got crime scene photos from when he was a cop, and he wrote about what he saw, and this is blah blah blah. So he's had a hit book, and now he's got to follow it up, and he's not really a writer, so we find him with writer's block trying to work out what's going on with this next novel, and that's how we find them both. And then something happens in the first episode where Amy starts acting strangely and she goes missing. And this coincides with a friend of his turning up that he hasn't seen since school, Gary Fisher, played by the brilliant Tori Kittles, who tells him about a secret society of people that he's discovered that can bring people back from the dead. And he thinks that maybe Amy is involved. And so off we go on this mystery that Jack has to try and figure out what the hell's going on, like everybody.
When did you hear about the project, and was it that concept that made you want to do it? Was it working with this producer, or was it the writing?
Well, I heard about it through Julie Gardner, who's a friend of mine, and I did Doctor Who with and Life on Mars and State of Play actually. So we were good friends in England, and also Jane Tranter, who I worked with loads of times when they were over there. And they left for America a few years ago, and luckily for me, came back and offered me to come with us because I've got a brilliant project for you. And she waited and she thought something it was something that I would be interested in. And I met up with her over a very long coffee, and she explained the whole thing to me off the top of her head, which took a while. But I was completely intrigued. I went out immediately before getting on the tube to go home. I went and bought the novel, and then she sent me the first draft of the first script, and I was just hooked from there. When I read the book, it reminded me of, in a really good way, of Stephen King. Brilliant at characters, brilliant at spooking you out, and brilliant at making you want to find out exactly what happens next. So that was a compliment I could pay to Michael Marshall, who took it as a compliment, and I went, thank you. It's as good as Stephen King. So it's spooky, and it's it's got that X-Files thing to it. The wonderful Glenn Morgan, who's sprinkled his magic on it. So it's a pretty heady mix. It was a very attractive option. I'm talking to myself. I can't remember what the question was now.
You answered it.
Right, so gone right round.
Well, what is the favorite thing you like about playing this role, this character?
Well, the whole challenge of playing this character was very tempting for me because I'm playing an American. I've never played an American before. It was something I'd never done. I'd sort of got to the point in England where I wasn't treading water, but I was thinking, what else can I do now to spice up my life and career and let's do something different. Because, do some great stuff in England, do a play and then do a show and whatever. But this was a completely different environment, a different way of working, a different accent, everything. So, different weather. Which was great, and a whole new group of people to work with, so it was really exciting. So that's the thing that enticed me to it.
What were some of the challenges that you had as an actor with your character?
Well, the accent at first, I took seriously. I want to get right, so there was that. As far as the character goes, I'm sort of used to playing. It's not the everyman, but it's an ordinary guy in an extraordinary situation, which is like Life on Mars. Just this weird thing happens to this guy, and obviously, probably in real life wouldn't happen, but if it did, just say it did, how would you react? In reality, how would you react? And that's how I took it, so I could take a little bit from Son Tyler in Life on Mars, that he was a fish out of water in that crazy world, not really knowing what was happening, and this happens to Jack a little bit as well. As the story goes further and he gets further into this web of strange people trying to find his wife, he's completely alone, and so that. What was the question again?
When you're so
They're so long, these answers, aren't they? I can't remember what the question was. Sorry.
when you're so engrossed with a character like that, do you find yourself having dreams like as the character, or like things like scenarios from the show?
Yeah, I mean, weird things do start happening. I mean, I don't have dreams the same, but you think about things from the show all the time. It's like when you're doing a play. For some reason, the lines come out at you in the street, and you'll see something and go, oh, somebody say the same line, and that happens with filming as well. So there was a whole paranormal, spooky kind of element over it, which was kind of spooky. But and me and Tori Kittles actually heard a ghost. We actually heard a ghost, and I don't believe it. He doesn't believe. I sort of do now a little bit. When we were filming, we actually heard a ghost.
Wow.
We were like in an abandoned mental hospital in Vancouver, and it was a very spooky building. And we heard somebody crying. We were trying to talk in a room, we were talking, and having a 20-minute conversation, somebody sobbing outside, somebody was placating them. Couldn't quite hear what they were saying, but you could tell what it was. And eventually, Tori said, I was like, I don't know, we should check that out. So we looked everywhere, all around, up, down. It was deserted because everybody was outside setting up a car shop. So somebody was there. And then we thought maybe it was a TV, but no, it wasn't anything. So we had a spooky Intruders experience for real. It's just quite mad.
Great. That's great.